So the idea is that we want to make a user interface which calculates entropy for the psychology department. And so we have that it calculates entropy to their specifications, but also it's flexible enough to where if they want to change anything or maybe see what some different values are, that they're able to do that. So the general idea is that we have all these buttons grayed out at the beginning so that the only option the user has is to browse a file. And when you click browse, it only lets you see Excel files, which is how the data is stored for the psychology department. So if we choose one, choose a file and open it, and then it loads data, it gives us a weight bar. And at each step, it calculates some data and it increments the weight bar. And it keeps all these buttons grayed out so that the user cannot interfere with the calculations. And so what this does is it takes in an Excel sheet and it calculates the first sheet of data, and it listed here the standard statistics for intensity and pitch, and then it calculates the default values for entropy. Now the default values are what the psychology department wants to use. The number of bins is taken as the number of voice frames divided by 30. The minimum and maximum pitch and intensity are taken directly from the statistics, and it automatically computes the default entropy for you. And so we've written our program to where you can change these histogram values and actually get a new entropy. Say if we wanted to check 30 number of bins, we can go over to the histogram statistics where it says number of bins and change that to 30. And then we can compute Shannon's entropy and it'll update automatically. So this gives them an idea to see, well, maybe if we change the bins or the maximum or minimum a little bit, how does that change it? But if you click the default values buttons at the bottom, it goes back to how they want it. So the idea here is that we're making a GUI for Dr. Cohen that does everything he wants, but also we can explore some other options, such as how does Kolmogorov's entropy compare to Shannon's entropy? And another thing that the GUI does is that we have the option to save all of the data to an Excel file.
So first, I'm going to be talking about our basic concept. We have subjects. Each subject is given 15 images to look at, and they are asked to speak about these images for a few seconds. They speak into a microphone, and their pitch and volume, pitch and intensity are measured and recorded on Excel sheets. This gives us thousands of data points that we want to measure for diminished expressivity. Now, the reason we use MATLAB is because the matrix-based programming allows for easier manipulation of large data. Our initial challenges were learning the basics of MATLAB, familiarizing ourselves with GUIs, graphical user interfaces, and importing and exporting in Excel files, .xls. The reason we need to import in .xls is because the data was given to us in .xls, and we like to put it back in that format, just the psychology. Finally, I'm going to talk about our current challenges. Our current challenges are that our GUI only calculates one sheet as opposed to 15. It's obviously a problem, something we need to look into and get fixed. Secondly, we want to create a drop-down box that has an option for each sheet that we want to do calculations on. We also want this drop-down box to be dynamic. So if we have a certain set of data that only has, let's say, 10 sheets or 20 sheets, we could still do it without having to change the program. Finally, on our GUI, our save button and our Kolmogorov entropy buttons don't work.
Okay, so after the Pratt system that the psychologists used to analyze the data was done analyzing the voices of the test subjects, the end result is an output in an Excel file that would look a lot like this one. The first column is time. It's every individual unit is the frames, and they're all hundreds of seconds. The second column is values for pitch. Third is intensity, and the next three are formats. What a format is essentially, it's an essential characteristic of sound. Every sound can be broken down into a series of formats. And generally speaking, 1, 2, maybe 3 formats would be enough to distinguish between a different kind of sound. And if you had some sort of knowledge of formats, you could actually reconstruct the words that were said, and not just where they were and weren't talking. And if you could go down a little bit now. These values here are 0 for pitch, because this is where the person was not talking yet. Here, though, we have values for pitch, and the person was actually speaking during this time. The values for intensity, there's no zero values for that. Even when the person is not talking, there are still some values for intensity, but that would mostly just be background noise. I think it's the end.